With the top business buzzing news of the day, I'm Vikram Oza, joining you to be able to guide you through all the market action and, of course, the big business news of the day. The big one, the action is against the masala companies. The food regulator, the FSSAI, has ordered quality checks on two companies, on MDH and Everest. But I understand it's not just these two companies. This order, of course, is issued after the Hong Kong government has banned MDH and Everest masala. And the allegation is that these products that they've banned contain ethylene oxide in those very products, the masalas. Let's find out more about what the FSSAI action can be all about. And for that, my colleague Samir is joining us on the phone line. Do tell us about the action that the food regulator in India is likely to take now that Hong Kong and Singapore both have acted on some of these masala products of MDH and Everest. Samir?
Definitely, in the latest development, the food regulator has started taking the samples of the masala makers, the spices, in the powder form of not just these two brands that you have mentioned, that is Everest and MDH, but other brands as well. So the sample collection has been started, and now it will go for further detailed investigation. Further quality checks will be done. And it comes into light after we have seen that Hong Kong and Singapore, they raised concern. Even Hong Kong has imposed a ban on certain variant of the spices of the masala that is made by this MDH and Everest. It has been alleged that the masala contained pesticide, that is ethylene oxide, and after which the ban was imposed. And in this same consequence, now food regulator has started taking action. Firstly, they will be collecting the samples. They will find out that whether these samples or the masala or the spices, they properly follow the norms laid down by the food regulator. It will be checked out. The quality checks will be done. And if found guilty, then some stringent action might be taken. But it is also a fact that the spices that is exported, for that, FSSAI has no such norms. Regarding export, FSSAI has no such norms, and for that particular case, the Spices Board has said that they will look into this case, they will raise the concern. But here domestically, the food regulator has come into action, and now they have started collecting the sample, and then further quality checks are being carried out.
Yes, Samir. So we understand the FSSAI is getting into action now, but let's get perspective on this, where the buck stops. Clearly now, Rekha Agarwal is a consumer advocate, and she's joining us on this leg of the show. Rekha Agarwal, pleasure having you with us. Over the past week, of course, we've had bad news about food companies and what they put in their products. We've talked about sugar and baby foods. Now we have the issue of pesticides in masalas. But in both these instances, Rekha, the issue has come to light outside the country. In Nestle's case, it was a Swiss report. In the masala matter, it's come to light after action against these products in Singapore and Hong Kong. It really begs the question about our own quality checks, doesn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, it is rather shameful or else very, very embarrassing that these two companies, and they're very, very famous and popular brands, having a very good goodwill of their own in the Indian market as well as abroad. So it was, in fact, very disturbing for me also in the morning when I read this news on the net that, that too, overseas in Hong Kong, that these two masala companies, certain masalas, have been found to be containing this pesticide. So I think that it is high time that, we should have more stringent laws. The FSSAI should also make sure that if they're having quality control and checks and balances, mechanism, to check the products which are being domestically, marketed by these two companies, or for that matter by any other company, then these same kind of checks and balances, or rather more stringent, are adopted when things are being exported. And keeping in mind what are the laws of that country. Now, sometimes it happens that a certain level of any particular chemical may be permissible in a particular country, but it may not be permissible in another country. So one has to see that before Hong Kong also allowed the import of these two masalas, was the quality control and checks and balances mechanism adopted even by that country before it allowed the export of this import of these two masalas products in their own shores. So having said that, I think that whether it is the Indian market or whether it is the overseas market, the the consumer, as I've always been, repeatedly harping in all the shows in which you have been inviting me, that consumer is the king. Consumer is entitled to get value for money. And if any kind of malpractice is adopted by any country, whether it is in the domestic market or whether it is in the overseas market, they are liable to face the legal and penal consequences, not only the civil consequences, but they can also be, criminal cases filed against these companies. So I think that the welfare of the consumer should be kept, supreme. It is not just
But
a
that's
case of
the real question. Do you see enough judicial action, Rekha? Because if you're saying there needs to be more stringent laws, is this a parliamentary process that you would expect, or do you think laws that are in place are not being executed the way they should?
I think that there are enough laws in place, except that the problem lies in execution. So we are not taking the steps in the right direction. There is no point in making more laws. There are enough laws in place. And even if those laws were, followed in letter and spirit, I think that such a situation would not have arisen as has arisen today, which ultimately even tarnishes the reputation of the country, not only of these two companies. We need to do a little more soul searching.
Yes, but we've seen some action against McDonald's too about the cheese that they use. In terms of checks and balances that the food industry itself puts in place, where are we lacking? How are the standards not being followed like any other developed country, for one? Because we are marching towards being among the top 3 economies of the world. And if we have to adopt certain standards, we are going to export that much more. Then why are these standards not being adhered to by the companies themselves? Why are they not seeing the importance of doing it? Even when you talk about the large domestic market that they cater to, because a lot is being said about how the Indian economy is based on local, on domestic consumption.
So I think that it is the inherent, first of all, I would say that it is a lack of awareness. Very often, these companies, they're only there to be making profits, and mass production is there. So, one reason could be that they're not aware about the stringent laws that are there. Secondly, the implementation of these laws. The food inspectors, who are doing the quality checks, they are probably failing in their duties to ensure that whenever they inspect these companies for their products and take samples, whether the samples are taken in a proper manner. And there are lots of wishy-washy things which happen when the food inspectors inspect these places. I would not like to kind of be more vocal about it. So I think that it is, as I said earlier also, that there are checks and balances available in the law itself. But the problem lies that we do not have the zeal and the desire to implement them. We are more after making profits and into mass production. So I think that if even these companies were to realize that we are not only we are making profit at the cost of the health of so many individuals, and once the health is spoiled, it could absolutely ruin a person's life.
Yes.
So I think that we need to do a little more soul searching.
Yes.
And there should be more checks and balances. There should be more, the process of taking samples, and ensuring that it is just not one random sample that is taken. There should be a very detailed mechanism that is adopted by the FSSAI inspectors when they inspect these premises.
So more stringent execution of existing laws is something that is a big ask. And whether it's the food industry, whether we talk about pharma exports, because these issues are increasingly coming to light with what's happening elsewhere, the checks and balances that other countries are doing, perhaps with the kind of system that we have, we can improve our standards of quality checks. We'll wait for that to happen, and we'll constantly bring up these issues on our shows. Thanks very much for joining us, Rekha Agarwal, consumer advocate. Pleasure having you with us. Meanwhile, we're looking at...
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.